I place the last plate on the table and step back, arms crossed, studying the layout as if I were staging a photograph. The plates are mismatched. 2 with blue rims, 4 plain white, 1 chipped at the edge. But from a distance, they almost look coordinated. I smooth the tablecloth once more, even though it's already straight. The light from the kitchen window stretches long across the wood, cutting through the faint dust in the air. Outside, the sky is the color of cold milk, the kind of early evening that comes too soon in September, when the air smells faintly of apples and damp leaves, when everything feels like it's slowing down. Eli is on the couch, bent over a drawing pad. He's sketching something with fierce concentration. 2 people and a house, maybe, though it's hard to tell from here. His tongue pokes out slightly as he colors. "You hungry, Bug?" I ask. He doesn't look up, not yet. I nod. He's quiet like that. Always has been. When he was little, my mother used to complain he was too serious for a child. "You're raising him like an old man," she'd say, half laughing, half accusing, as if stillness were something to be corrected. I wipe a smudge off one of the glasses. Mom and Lily were supposed to be here at 6. It's 6:30. I try not to glance at the clock again. This was supposed to be a simple family dinner. A fresh start, as Mom put it over the phone last week. "It's been too long, Clara. You've got your new house, your new job. Let's celebrate properly." I wanted to believe her, but now, with the roast cooling in the oven and Eli's drawing rustling softly in the background, I feel that old tightness forming in my chest, the one that comes before disappointment, the one I've trained myself to mistake for hope. The doorbell rings. I flinch, not because of the sound, but because of the small, immediate relief that follows. They came. This time they came. When I open the door, my mother's perfume hits first. That cloying, flowery scent she's worn for decades. The one that somehow fills a room faster than she does. She's smiling, though her eyes dart past me, scanning the entryway. "Clara, sweetheart." She pulls me into a hug that smells like powder and control. "You look wonderful." Lily follows behind, balancing a tote bag on her shoulder and holding a plastic container of something unidentifiable. Her hair is freshly done, too glossy, too curled. She grins. "Hey, sis. Wow, you actually did it. Real house and everything." "Come in," I say, stepping aside. "I'm glad you could make it." Mom brushes past, her heels clicking on the hardwood. "Of course we made it, darling. What kind of mother would I be if I missed my daughter's little milestone?" Little milestone. The words land like a pin dropped in a quiet room. Eli looks up when they enter. "Hi, Grandma." Mom brightens instantly, her smile turning genuine for the first time. "There's my favorite boy." She crouches to his level, her bracelets clinking. "You've gotten taller. What are you drawing?" He shrugs. "Just a house." "Ah, just like your mama, always building something." She ruffles his hair, then straightens, glancing around. "Well, Clara, this is charming, cozy. It has potential." I bite back a laugh. "Thanks." She wanders toward the kitchen, inspecting the counters like a real estate agent. "You'll need better lighting in here," she muses. "And maybe curtains that actually match the sofa. Lily, don't you think?" Lily sets her container on the counter and grins. "Totally. But hey, progress, right? At least it's not that apartment anymore." Mom gasps softly. "Oh, the one with the mold in the bathroom. Honestly, Clara, I still can't believe you lived there that long. You really should have called me." I turn away to check the oven. I managed. "You always say that," she murmurs. Such pride. The roast smells perfect. garlic, rosemary, and something that reminds me of the Sunday dinners we used to have before everything went sideways. I set it on the counter, ignoring the way Mom peeks into the pot like she's inspecting an experiment. "Well," she says finally, clapping her hands. "Shall we eat? I'm starved." Dinner starts politely enough. Eli talks about school, about the science project he's working on. Mom praises him between bites, smiling too much, while Lily scrolls through her phone. I try to focus on Eli's voice, his excitement when he describes the baking soda volcano, the way he gestures with his fork. But I can feel the shift coming, like weather rolling in. It happens halfway through the meal. "So," Mom says, setting down her fork with that deliberate slowness that always precedes something unpleasant. "I heard you finally got that promotion." I nod. "Yeah, department head as of last month." "Oh, how wonderful." She smiles tightly. "I was surprised you didn't tell us sooner." "I was going to," I say carefully, "but things have been busy." Lily glances up. "Busy buying new furniture, huh? Must be nice. I can't even afford my rent right now." Mom tusks. "Lily, don't start." "No, it's fine," I say quickly. "If you need help—" She cuts me off, eyes sharp. "Oh, I'm sure you'd love to help. Just to remind me you're doing better than the rest of us." My throat tightens. "That's not what I meant." Mom sighs, sipping her wine. "Girls, please. We're supposed to be celebrating. Let's not turn this into another argument." But the tone's already shifted. That invisible current of old resentment threading through the air. Lily leans back in her chair. "You know, Mom's been having a rough time, too. With the mortgage and all. It's been a lot." I glance at Mom. "Is everything okay?" She hesitates, just long enough to make it intentional. "Well, I didn't want to say anything tonight, but since Lily brought it up..." My stomach sinks. The truth is, I'm behind on a few payments. Nothing major. Just a few thousand. The bank's being unreasonable, as usual. I thought maybe you could help me out a little, just until things stabilize. There it is. The celebration, the family dinner, all of it leading here. I force a smile. "Mom, I can't right now. I'm still paying off the renovation." Her expression falters, then hardens. "Renovation? Clara, really? You could always take out another small loan. You're good with that kind of thing." "I'm sorry," I say, my voice softer than I expect. "Not this time." The silence that follows is heavier than shouting. Lily's fork scrapes her plate. "Wow. So that's a no then." Mom shakes her head slowly. "After all I did for you, Clara. After all those years of raising you alone. This house. This independence. You wouldn't have any of it without me." I feel Eli watching me, his small eyes wide. "I know, Mom," I whisper, "and I'm grateful. But I can't keep fixing everything." She exhales through her nose. Such coldness. "I don't know what happened to you." After they leave, earlier than expected, their goodbyes curt, the house feels cavernous. Eli helps me clear the table without speaking. The dishes clink softly. When he finally speaks, his voice is tentative. "Are you mad at Grandma?" I pause. "No, honey, I'm just tired." He nods, accepting that. Kids always know more than they should. When he goes to bed, I sit at the table again, staring at the half-empty glasses and the congealed roast. The house feels smaller somehow, the walls holding on to their voices. Outside, the wind has picked up. I can hear the creak of the porch swing, the same one Mom admired when she first arrived. I should feel proud for standing my ground, however small that ground was. But all I feel is that familiar ache, like guilt wearing a mask of responsibility. I tell myself I'll clean tomorrow, For now, I just sit there, letting the silence thicken, waiting for it to feel like peace. It started with the spare key. I found it on the kitchen counter one morning, sitting beside the sugar jar like a message left in code. A plain silver key on a red plastic ring. The same one I'd given Mom for emergencies only when I bought the house. I hadn't given it back, but someone had used it. At first, I thought maybe I'd left it there myself, in one of my distracted evening routines after putting Eli to bed. But then I noticed the coffee pot. It was full. I hadn't made coffee that morning, or the night before. And on the stove, a pan, slightly greasy. Someone had cooked here. I stood in the kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, and listened to the silence. The refrigerator hummed. Outside, the trees brushed against the siding in the wind. Eli's cartoons murmured faintly from the living room. I checked the front door. Locked. The back, also locked. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by my own walls. When I called Mom, she sounded offended before I even finished the sentence. Of course I stopped by. You weren't answering your phone last night. I thought something happened. Mom, you came inside. Well, you gave me the key. I didn't think it'd be an issue. It's my home. I tried to keep my voice steady. You can't just let yourself in. Oh, for heaven's sake, Clara. I was worried about you and Eli. The world's not as safe as you think. It's not about safety. She sighed. You're always so dramatic. I made you coffee, didn't I? You could say thank you. The call ended with the same flat click it always did. Her way of winning by hanging up first. I stood there afterward, phone still in my hand, and stared at the counter where she'd left the key. For a second, I imagined throwing it out the window. But then I pictured her standing outside next week, pretending she'd just stopped by, hands out, smiling like nothing happened. Instead, I placed it in a drawer and locked it. A small victory, a fragile one. The next intrusion came as words. At school, during lunch, I scrolled through my phone and saw her post on Facebook. A photo of Eli from last summer, sitting on the dock by her lake house, squinting at the sun. The caption read, "Missing my sweet boy. Some people forget where they came from, but grandmothers never do." Dozens of comments followed. So true. You're such a strong woman, Marilyn. Family always wins. My chest tightened. I called her again that evening. Mom, you can't post photos of Eli without asking me. Oh, stop it. It's just a picture. It's my son. And my grandson. You think you can erase me from his life? You're sounding just like your father. That old wound, she knew exactly where to press. Please, I said quietly. Just take it down. Her voice went cold. You used to be grateful for me, Clara. You used to understand loyalty. Then she hung up. When I checked later, the post was gone. But in its place, a new one. Funny how some people can't handle the truth. God sees everything. I started noticing small shifts after that. The air heavier, the phone ringing at odd hours. Text from Lily. Mom's really upset, you should call her. She said you yelled at her? That true? Why do you always make things harder than they need to be? I didn't answer most of them. At work, my focus began to splinter. I'd stand in front of my class, discussing To Kill a Mockingbird, and halfway through a sentence, lose my train of thought. The students didn't notice much, or they pretended not to. But after school, when the halls emptied and the light grew softer, I'd sit at my desk and stare at the notes Mom had left in my head. Ungrateful, cold, just like your father. I started writing them down, each phrase like a line of data. Documentation, I told myself. A way to separate truth from distortion. That's when I started seeing Miss Avery. She was the school counselor, early 50s, calm in that unflappable way that comes from years of dealing with teenagers and their parents. When she asked how I was, I nearly said fine. but the word caught somewhere between my ribs. "I think my family's trying to make me feel crazy," I said instead. She nodded, as if that wasn't a strange thing to hear. "Tell me how." I told her about the key, the posts, the guilt that clung like humidity. When I finished, she leaned back and said softly, "That's not concern. That's control." Something in me shifted, a click, quiet but distinct. Weeks passed. The intrusions grew stranger. One evening, I came home to find my porch light unscrewed, just enough so it wouldn't turn on. Another day, a bag of groceries on the step. Milk, cereal, a note. "You shouldn't be spending money on takeout. Love, Mom." I hadn't told her about ordering takeout. She'd been watching. I started keeping a journal. Times, dates, evidence. I even bought a small camera for the porch just in case. Eli didn't notice much, though sometimes he'd glance toward the window before bed and ask, "Is Grandma coming over again?" I'd smile too tightly. "Not tonight, sweetheart." But once, late one night, I woke to the sound of gravel crunching outside. Through the curtain, a shadow, short, round shoulders. I held my breath until it passed. When Lily called the next day, I was ready. "Mom says you're paranoid," she began. "She's just trying to help, Clara. Breaking into my house isn't helping." "Oh, come on. She worries about you." "She's scaring me." There was silence. Then laughter. Light, almost pitying. "You've always been dramatic. Remember the time you called the cops because you thought someone was in the basement and it was just the furnace? This isn't the same. Maybe you should get some rest." And there it was, the perfect erasure. That gentle condescension they'd both mastered years ago. After she hung up, I stared at my reflection in the dark window. My own face looked unfamiliar, tired, drawn. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was losing it. But then I saw the porch light flicker. Just once. A brief pulse in the dark. And I knew I wasn't imagining anything. That weekend, I changed the locks. It felt like a confession. Like admitting I was afraid of the people who raised me. But when I turned the screwdriver and heard the final click, a rush of something I hadn't felt in months swept through me. Relief. Power. A small, steady pulse of control. Eli helped me paint the mailbox afterward. Blue, his favorite color. We wrote our names on the side in clumsy letters. He grinned. "It looks like ours now." "It is ours," I said. "Always will be." But that night, when I checked my phone, there was a voicemail waiting. Mom's voice trembling or pretending to. "Clara, how could you do that to me? Change the locks? After everything I've done? I just wanted to check on you, to see Eli. Everyone's worried. You've really lost yourself, haven't you?" Click. Then a text from Lily. "She's crying. You should be ashamed." I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the message, set the phone face down, and sat in silence until the ache in my chest turned into something else. Not guilt, not fear, something quieter, something stronger. It happened on a Sunday, Eli's 7th birthday. The day that should have been simple. Cake, balloons, laughter, the easy noise of children running through the yard. But nothing with my family ever stayed simple. I had spent the morning decorating. Streamers twisted across the living room ceiling, cupcakes cooling on the counter, the smell of frosting, sugar, and the faint tang of balloons. Eli darted between the kitchen and the yard, his hair sticking up from static, cheeks red from excitement. He'd invited his classmates, 6 of them. For once, the house felt like a home filled with life, not ghosts. Around noon, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Mom's car. I hadn't invited her. She stepped out in a pastel dress, carrying a box bigger than Eli. Lily followed, already talking loudly on the phone, her sunglasses perched high like armor. I froze in the doorway, icing spatula still in my hand. Mom's smile was too wide. "Surprise! We couldn't miss our grandson's big day. Mom, don't start. We brought gifts. You'll love them. I wanted to tell her to leave, but the children's laughter from the yard stopped me. Eli's voice rose above them. Grandma? He ran toward her, and she bent down, arms open like she'd never broken a boundary in her life. The sight twisted something inside me. Joy and resentment tangled tight. The afternoon blurred into forced civility. Mom took over the kitchen like it was hers again, rearranging plates, criticizing my store-bought frosting. Lily filmed everything for her Instagram, narrating with fake cheer. Family first. Our little man turned 7. At one point, I caught her whispering to one of the other moms. Clara's been under a lot of stress lately. We're trying to help her, bless her heart. The woman nodded awkwardly, glancing at me like I was fragile glass. I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled, cut more cake, and served it carefully. The perfect hostess. Because that's what they counted on, my silence. The real rupture came at the end, when Mom announced, loudly, to the entire group, that she'd be taking Eli for a few days so I could rest. I laughed at first, thinking it was another one of her guilt-soaked jokes. But she was already packing his gifts into her trunk. Mom, no, we didn't discuss this. You need a break, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You've been so tense. It's not healthy for a child. I felt every pair of eyes turn toward me. Even Eli looked uncertain. Go get your backpack, sweetie, she coaxed. Grandma's house has the big TV. No, I said, my voice flat. He's staying here. Clara. I said no. The air went still. Even the children quieted. Then Mom's smile cracked, her voice sharpening. You don't get to keep him from me. After all I've done. After all you've taken, I snapped. She blinked. Excuse me? Lily stepped forward. Clara, you're making a scene. I'm ending one. I reached into my purse and pulled out the small folder I'd been keeping for weeks. Receipts, texts, screenshots, notes from the counselor. I handed it to Mom, my hand steady. This is everything. Every time you entered my house without permission. Every time you posted Eli online after I said no. Every manipulation. Every guilt trip. Every lie. If you keep harassing me, I'll go to the police, and I will not be alone this time. Her face drained of color. You wouldn't. I already have legal advice, I said, and a restraining order in draft, waiting for one more incident. Please, try me. The words felt foreign, like someone stronger had borrowed my voice. But they were mine. Completely mine. Mom's jaw trembled. Whether from rage or shock, I couldn't tell. You'd do that to your own mother? She whispered. I took a breath. No, you did this. I'm just done pretending it's love. For a long moment, she just stared at me, then turned, grabbed Lily's arm, and walked to the car. Lily hesitated at the door. You're really burning every bridge, huh? Maybe, I said, but at least I'll stop drowning. They drove away without another word. The silence that followed wasn't peace at first. It was hollow, like a room after a storm. Eli stood beside me, holding a piece of wrapping paper. Did I do something wrong? I knelt, pulling him close. No, sweetheart, not at all. Sometimes people don't know how to love the right way. He nodded, trusting, and wrapped his arms around my neck. I held him for a long time, until the last car left, until the yard fell quiet, until I could breathe again. That night, after he fell asleep, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the porch, and looked up at the stars. For the first time, the air didn't feel heavy. I realized that peace wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the quiet after finally locking a door for good. The next morning, the house was unnervingly still. No messages from Mom, no passive-aggressive texts from Lily, just sunlight spilling across the kitchen table, highlighting crumbs of yesterday's cake and the faint scent of frosting in the air. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up with my chest tight. But peace, real peace, is rarely clean. It comes with echoes. By noon, my phone began to buzz. First, a message from Aunt June. "Clara, your mother is heartbroken. Maybe you should talk things out before it goes too far." Then a comment appeared on one of my photos. "You shouldn't air family issues in public, it's ugly." I hadn't posted anything. But Mom had. A blurry photo of Eli's half-finished cake, captioned, "Even when they push you away, you still love them." Hundreds of likes, dozens of sympathetic replies. It felt like a punch, not because strangers believed her, but because it confirmed what I'd always known. She didn't want resolution. She wanted control of the narrative. At work, people looked at me differently, a mix of curiosity and pity. I caught snippets of whispers in the break room. "Did you see the post?" I pretended not to. That afternoon, while editing reports, my coworker Jenna stopped by my desk. She didn't ask what happened. She just set down a cup of coffee and said softly, "You're doing the right thing." I nearly cried. Sometimes kindness is so rare it feels like a threat. The days that followed were a blur of small, deliberate acts. I changed the locks, blocked Mom and Lily on social media, contacted a lawyer about custody clarity, not because I feared losing Eli, but because I needed everything in writing. At night, when Eli slept, I sorted through old boxes, birthday cards that ended with guilt-ridden PS notes, photos where my smile looked borrowed, letters from Mom that always began with "I love you" and ended with a request for money or forgiveness. I didn't burn them. I wasn't ready for that. But I sealed them in a box, taped it shut, and wrote one word on top. Finished. The week stretched into a rhythm, quiet, steady, human. Eli and I began taking evening walks by the lake. He'd collect pebbles and tell me about school, his tiny voice cutting through the dusk. Sometimes he'd say, "Grandma used to come here with us," and I'd nod. "I know, and maybe one day we'll invite her again, but only if it feels right." He'd accept that. Children don't need long explanations, just honesty that doesn't hurt. Slowly, life began to soften at the edges. The kitchen no longer smelled like tension. The walls looked brighter, or maybe I finally noticed the light. I started repainting Eli's room, one wall at a time, soft ocean blue. There was something therapeutic in the brush strokes, in the small, repetitive motion of reclaiming space. Still, there were nights when guilt slipped back in like a draft under the door. What if I'd gone too far? What if they were right, that I was cold, ungrateful, dramatic? But then I'd remember the sound of Mom's voice, the way she'd twist my boundaries into obligations. And the thought would settle like a quiet truth. Love shouldn't feel like debt. One evening, as Eli worked on his Lego castle at the kitchen table, he looked up and asked, "Mom, are we happy now?" I hesitated. Not because I didn't know, but because happiness wasn't what I was chasing anymore. Peace was quieter. Less colorful, maybe, but real. "Yes," I said, smiling faintly. "We're learning to be." That night, after putting him to bed, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. Outside, the streetlight flickered, illuminating the small garden I'd neglected for years. I made a silent promise to myself. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a quiet vow to grow something new, even if it starts small, even if no one claps. Just me and the life I chose. It's been 6 months since the night I changed the locks. 6 months since the shouting, the messages, the endless justifications. And silence, that once felt unbearable, has turned into something gentle. A rhythm. I still wake early, before Eli, before the hum of the neighborhood starts. The kettle whistles. The same mug, chipped at the rim, fills with tea. There's comfort in repetition, in the way the light hits the kitchen floor at 7:13 a.m., the way the world feels suspended between sleep and responsibility. The house has changed. It's not perfect. It's alive. The walls are no longer immaculate. They carry fingerprints, scribbles, and one stubborn stain near the stair rail that no cleaner can erase. But they're ours. On the refrigerator, new drawings overlap old bills, spaceships, rainbows, a stick figure version of me and Eli holding hands under a yellow sun. Every time I see it, I remember how I used to erase his messes too quickly. Always preparing for company, always worried about appearances, about what Mom or Lily would say. Now the clutter feels sacred, proof of presence, proof of peace. Sometimes I still think about them, about Mom's voice, soft and dangerous like honey laced with something sharp. I imagine her kitchen, too quiet now that she's lost her favorite subject to scold. I wonder if she misses me, or if she just misses the power. But I don't hate her. I'm just done trying to be the daughter she invented, the one who absorbed every wound and smiled through it. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't about returning. It's about releasing. Eli turned 9 last week. We celebrated in the backyard. Small, simple, joyful. Just a few of his friends, cupcakes, a cheap Bluetooth speaker blasting songs that made him dance like he was made of lightning. After everyone left, he curled up next to me on the swing, frosting still on his cheek, and said, "Mom, this was my favorite birthday ever." I laughed. Why? Because it was just us. Nobody was mad. The way he said it, with relief instead of accusation, stayed with me long after he fell asleep. I've started writing again. Nothing big, just small essays, reflections, stories I never had time for. A local magazine published one on silence in small spaces. It was about letting your life shrink to fit only what you can love. The editor wrote, "It feels like something that had to be said quietly to be true." I cried when I read that, not because it was praise, but because it felt like recognition. There's a small garden behind the house now. Herbs, tomatoes, lavender that never quite thrives but refuses to die. Eli named the tomato plant Captain Green. Every morning he checks it like it's a pet. When I watch him kneel beside it, murmuring encouragement, I see something I never had. The simple inheritance of stability. That's what I want to give him. Not money, not perfection. Just the ability to feel safe in his own home. Last week, Lily sent an email. Short. Careful. Apologetic in tone, but vague in content. "I've been thinking about you and Eli. Maybe one day we can talk. No pressure." I read it 3 times. I didn't reply. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm not ready to reopen what I finally buried. Some doors can stay closed without being locked. Tonight, it's raining. The soft, steady kind that makes the air smell clean. Eli's asleep. The house hums with the quiet of safety. I walk to the window, cup in hand, and watch the streetlight glow against the water pooling at the curb. For the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm waiting for anything. Not for approval, not for apology. Just being here, breathing in this ordinary peace, feels revolutionary. Tomorrow I'll repaint the hallway. A lighter color. Something that reflects the morning sun. Maybe pale yellow. Maybe something unnamed. A color that exists only in the space between who I was and who I'm becoming. Eli will help. We'll make a mess. We'll laugh. And I'll know, without hesitation, that this is what family feels like when it's finally safe to stay home.